At that place too. And are we really actually here? Because that's the argument the cart takes off in. Anyhow. What happened last week? Who has been the main focus of this chapter so far? Abner. Abner's kind of a slick guy, isn't he? What did Abner do last time? He made a promise. He could do what?
10 tribes.
He could deliver the 11 northern tribes, couldn't he?
I'm still trying to keep Benjamin.
Yeah? Benjamin's a vital factor in this case. Chapter 3, yes ma'am. We're going to be starting in verse 22, but we'll get there in a minute. So Abner has come to David, sent an envoy, and says, I can deliver what you cannot obtain through warfare. That's essentially what he's saying. You've got a problem, though, and we haven't really addressed this problem yet. We won't really address this problem until chapter 4. You still have a sitting king in the north, do we not?
Yes.
But who really is king? Abner's the guy behind the power. And you'll kind of see the interplay between Ishbosheth and Abner. David kind of has the same kind of interplay in his neck of the woods. And we're going to pick that up here this evening. Abner is a relative of Ishbosheth. David also has a relative. Actually had three. Now he only has two. Anybody kind of figure out who David's relative is? Three brothers. Abishai. Joab! Joab is related to David. Now last week, as we departed, David let Abner return to the north under what? In peace. So basically what happens is David has allowed Abner to leave under safe passage. Now this is key because this is going to set up a very interesting interplay. So we're going to pick up here. 22. Just then, the servants of David arrived with Joab. Now, where is that from? We'll back up. Let's look at verse 21. And Abner said to David, "Arise and go, and I will rise and go, and I will gather all of Israel to my lord the king, that they may make a covenant with you, and that you may reign over them, and that you may reign over all that your heart desires." So David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. Just then, so it wasn't exactly just then. Abner's gone, and then all of a sudden, it just so happens, up rides Joab from a raid, bringing much spoil. But Abner was not with David at Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he had gone in peace. When Joab and the army, when Joab and all the army that was with him came, it was told to Joab, Abner the son of Ner came to the king, and he has let him go, and he has gone in peace. Then Joab went to the king and says, "What is this you have done? Behold, Abner came to you. Why is it you sent him away and he is gone?" We'll stop right there. Now, if David is a relative of Joab, what is the big beef between Abner and Joab? Anybody remember? Huh?
Abner killed his brother.
Abner killed his brother. So there's a blood feud that exists between these two families, right? Now, if you have a blood feud, does it extend only to the immediate family? Joab is expecting the king to kind of help meet this blood feud out. Here's the problem, though. How did Abner kill Joab? Did he walk into Abner's house and say, "Hey, Abner, I don't like that smile on your face. You've got kind of a crazy smile. I tell you what, how about I just fix that smile for you?" Bat, 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 bat. And walk out. Or was it in the midst of conflict? It was on the battlefield.
He was running, and the other guy was chasing him and gaining on him.
And Abner said, "Hey, turn away. I'm going to get you if you don't turn away." And he kills him. Let me ask you, is it possible to have a blood feud that is something that is done upon the battlefield and then execute that in peaceful situations? And that's kind of what you have going on here. Joab is expecting David to kill Abner for something that happened on a field of battle in the midst of battle. But one thing if they were fighting and Abner and David squared off against each other and David killed the other man, that's fine. But under a banner of truce, can David annul that and then kill Abner? Can't. Secondly, it's something done upon the battlefield. Kind of hard to have that grudge going on there. Now let's take a look and see what happens here. Joab has got some nerve. Check this out. Who's the king? What have you done? Behold, Abner came to you. Why is it you sent him away and so that he is gone? Kind of bold statements for a general to come into a king, because kings are not like presidents where you can kind of question them and question their authority. They are absolute authority. It's kind of interesting that Joab would have kind of that response. Now, who else had this kind of brazen and bold attempt in the north with a king named Ishbosheth? Abner did. Kind of out of line for Joab to be asking this question, and the implication is, how come you did not kill this man? Now look at the justification he uses for doing this. You know that Abner, the son of Ner, came to deceive you. And to know you're going in and going out and coming in, to know all that you're doing. Is that the intent of why Abner is there? Does Joab know why Abner is there? Joab has been gone for this whole negotiation. Why is Abner there? To work a deal, but why? Go all the way back to the reason why Abner is now trying to align with David. Anybody remember? He got mad at Ishbosheth because Abner usurped the authority of the king and slept with a concubine of Saul's. And Ishbosheth said, hey, you can't do that. You're not the king. And Abner said, oh yeah? Well, I'll take the kingdom from you and I'll give it to David. See ya, sucker. And that's what started all this mess. Joab's implication is what? That Abner is coming to spy on David, to kill David, to where the 10 or 11 tribes are the ones that are in charge. That's not the implication here. Remember I said every now and then we introduce a boogeyman to make people do what we want? You know? When the gun debate comes up, the boogeyman is the children. Think about the children! Think about the children! Well, who doesn't love children and who wants to see kids shot? So it's kind of the boogeyman they use to buffalo you along. Everybody has a boogeyman argument they whip out to get everyone to kind of hush up and go away. You start talking to folks that are pro-homosexual and they begin to use the boogeyman of, you're a bigot! I'm not a bigot. Look at him and go, I've been called worse.
One question.
Yeah!
How loyal was the army to Joab? Was it more loyal to Joab than to David, or?
Well, we don't know. We do know that David carries a great deal of weight with the military because David was one of the great commanders of this army. And so it's more and more of a political alignment. You have kind of this political, I guess, not really power play, but kind of as you have in just about any organization where you have two very strong-minded individuals where one is going to push an issue more than another. And so I think David, and one of the commentators said David's concern is that Joab may have had a little bit more standing because Joab has been out more with the troops of late. Joab has led the army in this conflict and David has not. And so that Joab may have more standing with the troops now than David does. But that's really kind of, it's a nice and a good theory, but it is an argument from silence that you don't have any real textual evidence to support. But you can look at the text, and that would be one reason why Joab is so bold in his statement is, I'm popular with the army. If you want to take me out, you got to take all my guys. And you kind of see Joab have a very brazen behavior at this stage, and you see where David snaps him back into place. So Joab goes out and says, what have you done? Abner has come to spy on you. We know that's not the case. Check this out. See what Joab does. When Joab came out of David's presence, he sent messengers to Abner. And they brought him back to the cistern of Sarah. Abner's allowed to go in peace, right? Now, the implication here for many is that Joab sends a message in the name of the king. And the king wants you to return. The other implication is Joab sent his brother, and I forget which one it is because it's not, is it Abishai that's still alive?
Yeah.
He sends Abishai with some men and says, you're coming back. The fact that you don't see Abner causing a fight or anything like that and all the way up to this point makes me think that Joab has done this in the name of the king. Also, when you see David's response to how Joab dies, it tends to make me think that Joab has done this in the name of the king. Hey, the king would like to talk to you one more time. Please come back. That would be a perfect setup. Why? Because would Abner come in with guns drawn or Abner come in with guns in his holsters? I use guns because, sword, spears, whatever. He come in a little bit disarmed and at ease, right? He just left the king in peace. Okay, well, I'll come back. He's had a lot of interaction. So Joab, the implication is that he tricks him. If you go and read what David says over in Kings, David kind of gives the indication that that's the case as well. And then you have this line, but David didn't know about it. So it kind of lends credence to the fact that maybe Joab has done this in the name of the king. And when Abner returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside into the midst of the gate to speak with him privately. Notice how, again, like this morning, when we go to do something wrong, we don't do it publicly, do we? Joab is going to do something to Abner, but he doesn't want it fully known just yet. Speak to him privately, and there he struck him in the stomach. How did... actually, it's Asahel that's still alive. So, how did Abishai die? Does anybody remember? He got stabbed where? In the stomach. He got stabbed in the stomach and he died. And so Abner comes in and Joab stabs him where? Could have stabbed him in 100 different places, right? And killed him. Could have slit his throat, stabbed him in the face, stabbed him in the neck, stabbed him in the heart. Where does he choose to stab him? In that day and age, a belly wound, is it a painful, excruciating way of dying? Yeah, it is. And it's not easily fixed. So he stabs him in the gut, and he kills him. You got a problem now. What's the problem?
Gotta bury you.
Huh?
Gotta bury you.
Well, you got to bury the evidence. You got two problems, actually. You got to have a shovel and a hole to put the body in. Preferably not a sand dune, as Moses has found out this morning. I don't understand. I buried him in the sand. Concrete, brother, concrete. Jimmy Hoffa will never surface again. Why? He's in concrete. Why? Geraldo Rivera will never find that guy. By the way, those of you, remember when Geraldo went looking for Hoffa? Yeah.
Well, he's right under the football field.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. In about 20 feet of concrete.
Yep.
So,
Or more.
but you have a problem. You now have a man that's killed under a banner of truce, and you have your general who did it.
No man is above the law. Try to convict him.
I'm glad you like that. However, David is trying to quell one fight with 11 tribes. Does he need a new fight with the tribe in which he's in charge of?
No.
So he is stuck in a very political place. Secondly, does this jeopardize the peace with the 11 tribes that he's trying to forge? Very much so. Because if David has sent this guy away under a banner of truth, and one of David's generals, and think about it in modern political terms today. Or go back for those of you that remember the Cold War. If the Russian ambassador came to the White House, and on the way back from the White House, they didn't stop at like Mickey D's or anything, and the ambassador gets blown sky high, who gets the blame? The president. Let's come to find out that one of the generals in the army actually did it. Is the general responsible in the eyes of the Russians? Who's responsible? The president. Who does the war start up with? It starts up with us, but who are they going to attack for what reason? Because our leader let this happen. David is trying to quell a fight with 11 tribes. So far, he's kicked the stuffings out of them. But what Abner jeopardizes by this petty move, because it is pettiness. And if you don't think people die on the battlefield, you should go and get out of the war business. Because people die on battlefields. So, for Joab to think that somehow that his brothers would escape this or come out unscathed is pretty naive thinking. And secondly, he has now jeopardized the peace with the 11 northern tribes. You got a problem. He also kills the king's, I think, his nephew. Got another problem. So he died for the blood of Asahel. Abishai is still alive. Sorry, I misread that. Afterwards, David heard of this and said, I and my kingdom are forever guiltless before the Lord for the blood of Abner, son of Ner. If Joab does this, and this is why I think that Joab does this under the name of the king, because David's constant professing that he has nothing to do with this. It's an argument for silence. I can't prove it. There's no text that, there's nothing in the Midrash that says David, and nothing to do, there's nothing there. But notice what he says next. May it fall on the head of Joab and upon all of his father's house. So it falls upon the father's house. Is it only going to fall on Joab?
No.
It falls on who else?
The entire family.
Abishai and any other descendants of Joab's father. And David is going to curse him with a couple of things. We're going to take a look at this.
Joab's father was David's brother?
David's father's brother, I think. So, I think that's right. I think it's David. Joab's father is David's uncle. Yeah, in kind of an Arkansas way. I'm kidding. It was an easy joke. It was a low-hanging fruit. Check this out. May it fall on the head of Joab and on all of his father's house. May the house of Joab, now he narrows it, never be without discharge, or one who is leprous, or who holds to a spindle, or who falls by the sword, or who lacks bread. What does that mean?
That's pretty comprehensive.
It's total. What do you think it means?
Covers all the bases.
He does cover the bases. He covers health issues, and he also covers war issues, and he also covers food. All right. Maybe it's not a discharge. You want to take a guess at kind of what that is? Possibly. There's a couple of answers as to why. You want to guess this one?
Fire weapon.
Diarrhea would be one of them. Possibly also an STD. Starts with a G. Don't know why that would be the case, but apparently, hey, that was big back then. Anyhow, so some type of, or here's the thing, some type of open sore that would bleed or would make you ceremonially unclean. Leprosy. So if you had this thing that was some type of bleeding, nasty, maybe severe case of the constant run. I mean, that's a miserable life there. That's think of a severe case of the constant runs. Yeah, that's before toilet paper and Boudreaux's butt paste. Or a constant case of gonorrhea. Having never had it, I don't know the symptoms, and I'd never want to experience it. From what I understand, it's quite painful. But imagine a constant case of that.
With all that sand around.
Assault.
And no antibiotics. Leprosy. Now this really gives rise to the fact that Joab was a leper, right? Does the text say that Joab's a leper?
It says that David wants him to be a leper.
Huh?
It says that David wants him to be a leper.
That's an implication, but we'll see in a minute where I think Joab actually falls in this category. Leprosy. One who holds a spindle. Can you guess? Anyone? Huh?
Spindle to do make yarn.
That's a good guess.
Like Sleeping Beauty, like where he,
Yeah, pricks the yeah. Somehow, yeah.
Like a sewing
Somehow, the guy that's writing for Samuel here, because it's not Samuel, he's long gone, dead and buried. It's like going, touch the spindle, touch it, I say. No, that's. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For playing, but no.
I was thinking that too, somebody that
Clean
had
it
to
up.
work back here. Yeah.
Someone who needs
An
a
oak
crutch.
Someone that needs a crutch. It is the word for the crutch. A cripple. So look at what is going on here. May whoever is in Joab's house have a really nasty case of some type of bodily discharge. May them be leprous to where parts fall off. And I guess if you had a really nasty discharge, you'd probably want parts to fall off. May you walk with a limp, who falls by the sword. What do you think that means? Dies in a sword fight. I know, maybe.
Dies in battle.
Dies what?
Dies in battle, period.
Suicide.
Commit suicide.
To die ungloriously in battle. It is not that you die as Abner's brother did in the midst of the fight and dies in battle, but more the case that you die as a coward and are struck
All the arrows
in
are in
battle.
his back.
All the arrows are in. That's really the implication here. Because here's the thing. All these things are negative, but if you die a glorious death, is that a negative? No. Or who lacks bread? Who has to be a beggar? And so this implication here is where we get the idea that Joab is a leper. Problem is, how does Joab die? Does anyone remember? Does anyone know? No, I know. It's over in 1 Kings.
Not with David.
David warned Solomon of the treachery of Joab and suggests that possibly the kingdom would be better off if Joab wasn't around any longer. I'm saying you gotta kill Joab. Well, I'm saying, possibly. You might want to take care of business. He attacked the family. You don't side against the family. Right? He suffers the fate kind of Fredo. Where's the light? Fredo?
She saw it.
No? Okay, we'll keep going. 1 Kings chapter 2. You know what? Turn it around and read it to you. Essentially, Joab backs one of David's other sons to be king. Solomon becomes king. David warns Solomon of Joab's treachery and the fact that Joab has already killed Abner and the blood of Abner is upon Joab's head. And now the fact that Joab has backed the other opponent. And now chapter 2, verse 28. When the news came to Joab that Joab supported Adonai, although he had not supported Absalom, Joab fled to the tent of the Lord, caught hold of the horns of the altar. And when it was told to the king Solomon, Joab has fled to the tent of the Lord, behold, he is beside the altar. Solomon sent Benaiah, the son of I'm going to spring my tongue saying that. Saying, go and strike him down. Benaiah came to the tent of the Lord and said to him, the king commands you to come out. It's kind of bad form to kill somebody in church, right? Right? I mean, I know I shot Raymond Lindholm a couple of weeks ago because he was Carlos the Jackal, but he was Carlos the Jackal. Anyhow, come out. No. I will die in here. The minute brought the king the word again, and says, Joab says thus, and thus he answered. And the king replied, do as he said, and strike him down and bury him. And thus take him away from me and from my father's house, for the guilt of the blood of Joab shed without cause. The Lord will bring back his bloody deeds on his own head. Without the knowledge of my father, he attacked and killed with the sword 2 men more righteous and better than himself. Abner the son of Ner, commander of the armies of Israel, and Amasa the son of Jether, commander of the army of Judah. Does Abner die a noble death? Or says Joab die a noble death? Joab dies a very unglorious death. So the implication that Joab dies or has leprosy, what was one of the 5 curses?
Sores.
Sores or something that's really nasty, flowing out of your body. Leprosy. Walk with a stick. Die unceremoniously in battle. Or be a beggar. How does he die? Holding on to the horns of the altar in the tent of the Lord. Kind of a cowardly way to go, is it not?
Otherwise, he had all 5.
He got, well, some may want to say it. I don't think he does. I think this goes to the family, because notice what the curse says. Let there not be without one in the family who has this. So there will always be in a generation somebody that this will happen to. But it doesn't say that it happens. All this happens to Joab. The only verse you have is that he dies unceremoniously out of Kings. That's kind of how I take it. I think you will have, if you were to go back and find some. Now, we may uncover some more verses here in a little bit that says, yep, Abner has leprosy, but I've looked and looked and looked and looked and found none. It's an implication from this, but if you go and read Kings, the implication from Kings is how he dies. He's struck down by the sword, right? So Joab and Abishai, his brother, kill Abner because he had put their brother Asahel to death in the battle of Gibeon. Now watch what David does. This is a great moment, right? These 2 brothers kill this man. The blood debt is finished. Should be some rejoicing. There should be a feast. Check out what happens to what David does. Then David said to Joab and the people with him there, tear your clothes and put on sackcloth and mourn for Abner. I'm going to take your victory from you, and I'm going to make you mourn for the man you just killed. Do something in my name like this, and therefore I will take away your victory. And Joab is kind of stuck, isn't he?
He can resign.
He could resign. Probably not in those days and age. I don't think they got that kind of. I don't think they had kind of that freedom to resign their post. Sir, I resign. Yeah, okay, you're dead. They buried Abner at Hebron. And this is important because they're going to bury something with Abner here in a little bit. And the king lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Abner, and all the people wept. And the king lamented for Abner, saying, should Abner die as fools die? Another way of saying that is, should Abner die as cowards die? When Abner killed Joab's brother, was it in battle during mortal combat?
Yes.
When Joab kills Abner, is it through treachery and deceit?
Yes.
We kind of have a code like that in our culture today, right? You know, it's easy to talk behind people's back, and then you hear people go, hey, if you're going to talk behind my back, here I am, you say it publicly, right? And that's usually where drunken fights begin, and it's much fun for everybody until the cops show up. And then, you know, but you kind of have this treachery. It's one thing for one to duke it out in a fair fight, but to have a 2-on-1 where you're deceived and your guard is down, there's some treachery involved there that's kind of underhanded. But notice David's response. Has Abner been a great guy for David? No. he's been a means to an end. I wouldn't exactly call him a righteous man. I think Solomon might have been lamenting a little too favorably, but hey, that's Solomon, and I'm not going to argue with the text because it's the text and not me. But I don't see Abner as being this great hero. I think Abner got tired of being told you can't sleep with the king's concubine and decided to swap sides. And all the people wept again and over, and then all the people came to persuade David to eat bread while it was yet day. But David swore, saying, God do to me, or so to me, and more, if I taste bread or anything else until the sun goes down. And the people took notice, and it pleased them, as everything that the king did pleased the people. So all the people and all Israel understood that day that it had not been the king who put Abner the son of Ner to death. Why does the king do this? Maintain peace, to also clear his name. For him to mourn the loss of Abner, for him to go in and fast for the day, is the indication that the people see that this was not treachery done by David to eliminate folks, because this is commonplace in monarchies all the time, or when people make grabs for power, or when you have companies do acquisition. They begin, as it seems like a nice little thing, and then all of a sudden people's offices begin to get cleared out, and people slowly disappear. This was very common in Iraq when we were there. Before we went in there, you'd have Saddam and his henchmen. One day, somebody just didn't show up for work. And you never asked, where's Ahmed? You all knew where Ahmed was. He was in the canal or Z Lake, one of the two. Yeah. Yeah. We all know who ordered it. It was the guy at the top. David is making it clear to where this doesn't come back. So not only does he curse Joab, and Joab's family ends up with this great packages of disease. David mourns, and what do the people see? And how does David shift power back into his corner? It pleased the people. The people took notice of it. It pleased them. And all the things that the king did pleased the people. He could have ordered Joab's death right there, right? Joab strictly usurped his authority. Joab took advantage of the king's position. Joab exerted his own power that he doesn't have. The king could have went out, killed Joab, and said, I had nothing to do with it. And the people would have gone like this. Remember the Ollie North thing? Right? The Iran-Contra. Ollie North was it, who was the admiral that was in, Admiral, was it Meese? Admiral Meese, Oliver North, Vice President George Bush, and Ronald Reagan. And Reagan said, well, must have happened, I wasn't there. Bush went, nah.
He wasn't there a lot of times.
Huh?
He wasn't there a lot of times.
He wasn't there a lot of times. And the Admiral and North took the fall, and then what happens when George Bush Sr. becomes president? He does what? He pardons everybody involved, right? And ever since then, America goes, there's a lot more there to that. If David had killed Joab, he's like, oh, this looks like a cover-up. You know, David gets Joab to kill Abner, and then David kills Joab to cover up the fact that he had Joab kill Abner, and everything's wrapped up in a nice, neat package. But leaving Joab alive and putting a curse upon Joab, and then David go into mourning for Abner, indicates and demonstrates that he had nothing to do with it, and the people's loyalty sway which direction? To David's side. And so after that, there's not that much problem. And it also, as someone mentioned, placates the 11 tribes who are looking for some type of cover-up. And the king said to the servants, do you not know that a prince and a great man has fallen this day in Israel? And I was gentle today, though anointed king. These men, the sons of Zeruiah, are more severe than I. The Lord repay evildoers according to his wickedness. So they kind of get a double tap. of cursing there. Questions? Questions? No? None?
Sure taking David a long time to get the king, remember?
It does take David a while. It does. He is yet to take the stronghold of Zion yet. Oh, I've ruined it. You won't show up that week.
Which week will it be?
I don't know. I won't tell you.
That's good for us.
Questions? Anything else? Yes, no? We sure? I don't know how that happened, but anyhow. Alrighty. Well, let's close out with a word of prayer and then we'll come around and circle up as a group. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Again, we see from 1st and 2nd Samuel the character of your man David. That even in the death of a man of Abner who has been playing both sides of the fence for a while, David remains above the fray. David speaks nobly of him. David takes the opportunity and seeks the right way. We see that even in David's household that not everyone follows after the ways of David or after the ways of the Lord, and that you have individuals seek their own path and their own means of justice and their own sense of entitlement. We have those two examples before us. And we ask that you will help us as we go through our life, that we keep that in mind as we make our decisions. Revenge, payback, these are easy for us to do. It's easy for me to do. We ask that we continue to pursue a life as David has led up to this point, which is a life that pleases you. We ask your blessing upon us. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. Well, let's circle up.